Welcome back to Rewitched, a charmed 1998 rewatch journey. I'm your host, Jess Zankou, and I can't wait to share my thoughts on one of my favorite shows with you. I'll be keeping these recaps spoiler-free and welcome fans, new and old, to join me on my journey here and on social media at Rewitched_pod on Instagram and TikTok. Currently, I'm on season 7. All right, so this week we're talking about season 7, episode 17, Scry Hard. So season 7 is really packing it in with the bangers. This is another really good episode. I really enjoyed it. I'm really liking the continuous storyline with Zankou thus far. And the sisters even do say at the end, I don't think this is the last we'll see of him. And I definitely am very much seeing him as our big bad of the second half of this season. In terms of innocence villains of the week, our villain is Zankou, as well as this tribe of demons that he's working with, led by this demon named Craven. We then have our innocents being primarily Leo, Piper, but also the other sisters. In terms of individual storylines, I will start with Phoebe because she kind of has a pretty big side story in this episode. So at the paper, Elise has decided to call in. It's her time to take a family emergency, and she needs Phoebe to cover for her because her second in command is also out sick. We find out later that the two of them are on a date. They're out drinking. They see them at the end of the night at P3 dancing, and Phoebe is kind of like, wait, this was Elise's family emergency. And the idea that she's there specifically because she wanted Phoebe to see that she also has a life, because she's kind of like, Phoebe, you have to run out all the time. Now it's my turn. You can handle this for me. And Phoebe being put into her shoes and seeing all the chaos she deals with on a regular basis. There is a lot of comedy in the scenes at the paper when she has to deal with these reporters, including a kind of misogynistic vibe type of guy who's like, I've been on this for 22 years, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like, I don't need to ask Phoebe to rewrite my column, whatever. But then she was like, read it now, bitch later, which I really liked, directly calling him out for how he was acting. I thought that was really funny. We also see that there are two guys, the fashion editor, and I think he was the film editor, who are kind of having this little bit of back and forth, he keeps using my stuff, whatever. Then Phoebe's like, he has a crush on you, which was a really cute little moment. Phoebe ends up by the end of the episode solving all of it, even though she was very, very overwhelmed in the beginning. So showing that if Phoebe had a different life, she would actually be really good at a job like this. And yeah, I really like the connection between her and Elise in this episode, obviously continuing that ongoing friendship and work relationship that they have, and the fact that Elise has her own things outside of the office too. I'm glad to see her having some fun, getting a relationship, especially since when she was talking to Phoebe in previous seasons, she had talked about how much she had sacrificed that part of her life for her career. So I actually was really happy for her, even though it was a small side story there. In terms of Paige's side storyline, so at the beginning of the episode, we see that she has been working on the schedules for magic school. She's really overwhelmed. She feels really cooped up there. This is something we've been seeing with Paige throughout the season, where she was kind of just put into this job because she believed in keeping magic school, but it's not a passion for her, having to deal with all of this behind the scenes stuff to keep things running. Though obviously she does continue utilizing the resources and does appreciate having magic school in her life. We see that at the end of the episode, she is actually able to no longer be the head of magic school when the position is offered to Leo by Piper and Phoebe, and Paige is instantly like, yeah, that's great, and orbs out to go do something else, which is really funny. So I do like that Paige now is maybe going to get a chance to step into some other things in her life that she can also find passion for. In terms of Piper and Leo, what's going on with them? So we do see early on in the episode that Leo's gotten really obsessed with reorganizing the house. Piper's kind of like, hey, you're doing way too much here, calm down. And he's like, look, I don't have anything else to do. I need to be helpful in some way. And the fact that Leo has chosen this normal life, but he even says at the end of the episode, I chose the girl, and is all right with his decision, but also wants to be able to help. Doesn't want to feel like he's not able to do anything now that he's mortal. And it's clear that his instincts and his knowledge are still there. I mean, early on when they're attacked by a demon in the attic, he's very quick to push Piper out of the way, which leads to him getting hit by a boomerang and cut. And Piper is kind of like, oh, like when Wyatt sees Leo's like, oh, look, I'm fine. It's just a scratch, whatever. But this idea that they don't want to keep using Wyatt to heal them and making him scared about what's happening, especially after last episode, because Piper brings up to her sisters, like, I don't want to keep making him tap into his powers and traumatize him. And her and Leo have multiple conversations about this idea of potentially causing too much worry for Wyatt, who obviously is a toddler. And it makes a lot of sense. I can't remember if I brought it up at the end of last episode or not, but obviously having to heal his mom, who seemed on the verge of death last episode, had to have had an emotional impact on him. We saw early in this season how he was affected by what Leo was going through as a result of saving him. So obviously he's very in tune with things, but also wants to protect his parents, right? Which is why he does in this episode trap them in the dollhouse with a magical force field around them so that they can't get hurt. And it's really cute that that's what he does. And it's also really funny seeing both Piper and Leo react to this, especially when they're both trying to talk to him and she's like, hang on, this needs a mother's touch. And she's like, Wyatt Matthew Hallowell, stop this right now. Like, it's really funny. It's really playing into that family dynamic. And I think that the way we're seeing them develop and deal with this situation of Leo being mortal now is really effective and really does well for this episode's storyline as a whole with Zankou. We also see later when they're kind of hiding downstairs when the demon shows up again after Piper's vanquished the two kind of like minions, and they're kind of walking around trying to stay hidden from him, when Leo spots Wyatt at the top of the stairs and is like, Wyatt, and yells for him, which then leads to Leo getting seriously injured when a boomerang is thrown into his back, which is when Wyatt then makes the decision to trap him in the house because they're kind of like, oh, like, we're fine, which Wyatt is powerful as fuck. Like, they talk about tapping into his powers too early. This kid's always tapping into his fucking powers. So like, what? Also the fact that Paige then just like, when she shows up and Piper and Leo are gone, is like, oh, like, boys, where are your parents? Like, I'll just bring you to magic school, like, whatever. And that is another funny moment where Piper then obviously is trying to call for her, but since they're so small and inside the dollhouse, it is kind of this moment where they miss each other. So we see that then while that's going on in terms of the attack at the manor, because Zankou's plan was to distract the sisters by injuring Leo, get them all out of the house to come after the demon and tribe who attacked, so that one of them could then go to the manor, find the Nexus, then they can summon the shadow and use its power in order to defeat the Charmed Ones once and for all, because Craven is like, oh, like, you're gonna lure them here and destroy them, and he's like, no wonder these demons are always getting vanquished by the fucking Charmed Ones. You guys are idiots. And then of course reveals his actual plan. However, what he wasn't accounting for was the fact that Piper would stay with Leo. They are eventually able to, within the dollhouse, have this conversation where they're trying to figure out the plan. They overhear Zankou and the demon talking about the Nexus. So they go to Grams's sewing room where Leo has Piper stitch him up because she's like, look, you're so focused on what you can't do, you're not remembering you can do. You were a doctor, like, you know what to do in this situation, even if you can't self-heal anymore. So they handle that together and then come up with a plan to get out of the dollhouse because it is magically protected. But they find the opening in the conservatory and are able to make a small opening, escape, get to the Book of Shadows, where they can then find a way for the sisters to scry for them by doing this spell that while they're at magic school makes the like crystal start floating and then land on the house, so that Piper and Paige do realize that they're still at the manor. It's really funny because they're like, well, obviously like Wyatt's spell was protecting us earlier when they couldn't find us, but this also means Zankou can now sense us, remembering that he has that ability because he does sense earlier that the manor is now empty. So when they're there, him and the other demons go down to the basement. They've discovered where the Nexus is. He does a spell to summon the shadow. It kills 3 demons. He realizes there's still good in the house. Piper must be there. This is right when Piper and Paige arrive. He senses that they're there as well as Piper. He finds them, puts them in a little box, Leo and Piper, and then when Paige and Phoebe get up there, he's like, oh, like looking for them. And they say that the Nexus, they need to do the spell in order to give it to him, and that they'll do that and it gives them the chance to fight. That's why they'll kind of go along with his plan because he's like, oh, like what's in it for you? Because he is like not completely convinced to let them be part of it, wants to kill them. So does Craven especially. And Zankou is like, no, like I read Piper's diary. They do have experience with it. Like we have to let them help, right? So this fact that they're able to play on that and then trick him. In terms of him reading Piper's diary, it actually is a very funny scene where he's sitting in the room reading her diary. Craven walks in and is kind of like, hey, like, what are you doing? And he's like, do you know how upset Piper was when Prue died? Which I liked the little Prue reference there. And then brings up this idea that humans are slaves to their emotions and that the most powerful one is love. And that's why he didn't account for Piper staying with Leo. She wouldn't leave him unprotected because losing him is her greatest fear, which he also plays on when they are down in the basement together. He's like, look, if you fuck me over, you lose the love of your life. So come on, let's do this. And the fact that that is so closely connected to last episode and what we've been seeing between Piper and Leo all season, this desire to save each other. And when they're in the box, it's kind of this idea of like, oh, we're gonna make Piper big again. And Piper's like, no, like I can't leave you. And Leo's like, no, you have to trust me. I may not be powerful anymore, but I still know about magic, and this is how we defeat Zankou. So when they are down in the basement, Zankou hands the sisters the spell. They do it, and the shadow starts kind of going back and forth between him and them, and then goes into Leo, who becomes big, comes out of the box. He starts fighting, vanquishing regular demons, fighting with Zankou, and then when Zankou gets upstairs, Craven's kind of like, I told you so, and Zankou vanquishes him and is like, never say that to me. Which is really funny because we do see that he is sassy with Zankou throughout the episode, but obviously Zankou doesn't like that. He doesn't like being told he's wrong, even when he clearly has made a mistake and underestimated the sisters, just like he was kind of calling out other demons for early in the episode. But he does ultimately leave because obviously he's outmatched by the shadow, and so that's when we see this idea that it is the ultimate power that has come up in this episode, and that he wants to control it. He wants to control the Nexus as a way to defeat the power of three. But obviously Leo reveals that the Nexus was too confused by these two great forces, and so it went into the only neutral body it could see, which was his. He then tells the sisters to do the spell to get it out of him when Piper's kind of worried and like, Leo, like this isn't you. And so they do it. They have this conversation, and it's very clear that Leo again still has that magical knowledge when they're sitting at P3 together. That is brought up that like, hey, just because you can't physically do magic anymore doesn't mean that your knowledge should go to waste, which is when both Piper and Phoebe obviously get the idea to make him the new head of magic school, which when we see him in that scene where it's revealed to him, because first when Piper brings him there, he's like, you want me to clean up magic school? And they're like, no, like we want you to run it. And he is so fucking excited. And then he like runs over to Wyatt, picks him up. He's like, look, like you don't have to worry about daddy anymore. Like he's gonna be okay. And it is this really nice kind of put together of things I was worried about last episode in terms of what happens to Leo when he's not magical anymore. I think there is a greater metaphor in what we've seen with both Leo and Cole in losing their powers. This idea of something that I think a lot of men struggle with, which is not having their purpose anymore, not being able to be in that traditionally masculine tough role. Because despite Leo's pacifist nature as a white lighter, he's always been protective of Piper, he's always been powerful, and he's always been able to help. So losing that ability, I think, is hard for him. And we saw Cole struggle with that also, like I just said. And that brings back that connection between the two of them that even Cole was bringing up in the previous episode. So I do, again, really love that the show took the time to explore Leo's reactions to losing his powers, because I think if everything was just fine and dandy like it was at the last episode ending, it would feel a little bit unrealistic. But now obviously he has found a new purpose where maybe he can't physically be in the fight anymore, but he can help train this next generation of magic who can obviously continue what his purpose was and serve as a guide and a leader in a new way. So I am really excited for Leo to start down this path and see how it helps against him feeling purposeless in only having his wife and family. And I get that because I think that that's something something that even mothers struggle with, right? The idea that like they need to have other things outside of that matter and that they can work towards. So I do like that Leo now potentially has a new purpose, that Paige can now have some freedom to do the things that would make her happy again with everything she's been through this season. And of course, Piper and Phoebe continuing on in whatever their roles might be. And I hope that Piper soon will get a storyline outside of Leo, but we'll see if that happens. Other than that, I'm really looking forward to whatever's next in the Zankou storyline and where this season is going in the back 5 episodes. But yeah, that is all I have for this one, and I hope you'll join me back next time.